What up, Janksters? It's John here. So New Capen is out, so that means it's time to do a bunch of budget deck videos. These videos will have a deck discussion and a little bit of gameplay with some music in the background, no camera, no mic, just a chill environment to show off how the deck works. What this deck wants to do and what Cabaretti likes is tokens, and we like tokens.
I like it a lot.
And we have tons of ways to make tokens in this deck. So we're going to start it here by talking about Usher the Fallen. A 1-mana 2/1 with Boros 2, create a 1/1 white human creature token. So pretty much this attacks, you pay 1, or you pay 2, and you make a 1/1 creature token. We also have Clarion Spirit, cards that you've probably seen a thousand times, have been in standard for a long time right now. But just in case you haven't, 2-mana 2/2, whenever you cast your second spell each turn, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. We also have Prosperous Innkeeper. It doesn't make creature tokens, but is a little bit of support. We can gain some life, but mainly it's just in here to help us ramp just a little tiny bit. We have Join the Dance, 2-mana sorcery that lets us create 2 tokens. We can also flash it back from the graveyard later on to do it again. We also have Cabaretti Charm. The third mode creates 2 1/1 tokens. It's also going to be a finisher and a removal spell, but we'll get to that in a little bit. We also have Darling of the Masses, a 4-mana 2/4. Other citizens you control get +1/+0, and whenever this card attacks, create a 1/1 token. We don't have very many citizens in the deck aside from Darling of the Masses itself, but the pump ability doesn't count it. We also have Prosperous Innkeeper and Cabaretti Charm, and then of course the tokens that this card does make are the only citizens that we actually have in the deck. So how does this deck want to win? Well, we talked about a couple of them already. Darling of the Masses can pump some things to get in for some extra damage. One of the big ones is one I haven't talked about, which is Maja Bredegard Protector, a 5-mana 3/2. Other creatures you control get +1/+1, and whenever a land enters the battlefield, you can create a token. So this card's an anthem effect for all of our little 1/1 creatures to get in for bigger chunks of damage to win the game that way. Also, the first rare that we're going to talk about is Stenzia Uprising, a 4-mana enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, create a 1/1 red human creature token. Then if you control exactly 13 permanents, you may sacrifice it, and when you do, it deals 7 damage to any target. So sure, we can point this at a creature or a planeswalker if we need to. The plan is to get in some damage and just finish them off with this one. Also, we have Cabaretti Charm. That second mode that I mentioned earlier as a finisher, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trampled until the end of turn. So yeah, pumping them up and getting in. Well, let's go ahead and talk about some of the removal that we have in the deck. Specifically Incandescent Aria, a 3-mana sorcery that deals 3 damage to each non-token creature. So pretty much a one-sided board wipe that came out of New Capen, which is awesome. This is the last rare that we're going to talk about. It's just a 3 of to make a total of 4 rares in the entire deck. But yeah, it's just really hard to pass up a one-sided board wipe. It's a good thing to point out that this card will get all of your non-token creatures aside from Darling of the Masses. She's the only one that can survive. To keep going with removal, we'll talk about Touch the Spirit Realm, a 3-mana enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you exile an artifact or a creature token, and it has a channel ability for 2 that will blink an artifact or a creature. So a nice insurance policy that might stop us from taking lethal damage. Also, we have 2 Circle of Confinement, 2-mana enchantment, enters the battlefield, exile a creature an opponent controls with mana value 3 or less until it leaves the battlefield. A couple cards that we haven't mentioned yet. We have 2 Shajiri Shelter, just a little bit of protection from some of our non-token creatures, mainly our Lord here. And also, I didn't mention this, another token producer, and kind of a silly one that actually I think could work a little bit. It's a 3-mana enchantment, enchant creature. An enchanted creature has vigilance, and at the beginning of your end step, create a 1/1 token. So sure, a well-placed removal spell will 2-for-1 us, but this does get us a token the turn that it enters the battlefield, so hopefully we can set up a turn where we can use this and at least get the token off of it. But in some games, it's kind of like another Stenzia Uprising, just making tokens every single turn. And every now and then there might be some games where you have all 3 of these on the battlefield and you're making 3 tokens per turn. It has happened. It's not recorded, unfortunately, but there it is. Last card I didn't really talk about, I just showed it off. It's the only alliance card that we have in the deck. So pretty much when a creature enters the battlefield, this card gets Death Touch. If it's triggered for the second time this turn, then all your creatures get Death Touch. So it's a good card that can help us out with board stalls, or if we're planning on doing some chump attacking with the tokens. At least if they are going to get eaten by a bigger creature, then that creature gets taken down also. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the deck. Aside from the lands, we have 7 plains because this is a primarily white deck. 3 mountains, 4 forest, 4 Cabaretti Courtyard to help us fix our mana, and also an Uncharted Haven to help us fix our mana. But that's it. We'll go ahead and get into the games. But before we do, please like the video, please sub and all that stuff. But all right, let's get to it, shall we? Okay, so we're back with the final thoughts. So now that we've played the games, I want to give you my opinion on some of the cards that are in the deck. Incandescent Aria, we didn't really get to see it do too well. It might have just been the matchups that we were going up against, but there are other token producers. You're gonna have to be aware of that. So this is hitting each non-token, even though you're going in with nothing but a bunch of tokens. That's not going to matter if your opponent has a Rin, like a 5/5 or a 6/6, 7/7 Rin and 7 token, and you kill everything else they have, and you have a whole bunch of 1/1s, but they still got that big guy to smash you with. But with that said, this card can swing some games. Cabaretti Charm is probably one of the best cards in the deck. I was never unhappy to see it. It's nice having removal that goes with your game plan, even though you do have to put in a little bit of work to make it reach up to some of those bigger threats. The second mode is good as a finisher. It's also good during combat on your opponent's turn to maybe mess up some of their attacks. And just being able to refuel with that third ability is pretty nice. Darling of the Masses, I wasn't too impressed. Honestly, I mean, it's nice that it has 4 toughness, so it is a little bit difficult for your opponent to remove it with 1 creature, but it's very easy to just stack 2 guys in front of this thing, two powered creatures, and just knock it off, and your opponent just has one little 1/1 to play with on their side. We never really got to see Maja go off. I don't even think I casted it. The Venom Connoisseur, you can take it or leave it, really. I put it in there for just to kind of see how it played, just maybe a little bit of fun for me, but also just being able to see how Alliance triggers, and I don't think it's needed. If I were you, if you were going to build this deck, I would just replace it with Ginny Faye, maybe cut something else. I'd probably replace Uprising with Jetmir. I feel like that would be a better choice in this deck. It is kind of tough to get to exactly 13 without any sacrifice outlets or anything. That's something that I overlooked when I put the card in the deck, but hey, that's why we play them, so we can test them and figure them out. But just from seeing how that played, I would replace this with Jetmir, and maybe even go down the Darling of the Masses for Jetmir. Maybe just cut this card all together and just add something that's more powerful and more impactful. Prosperous Innkeeper was great. There were some games that we probably would have lost if it wasn't for the life gain that we got from it. Join the Dance is nice, being able to get it back. But overall, if I'm being honest, I think the deck is just barely okay. It definitely needs something to push its power level up. That's what I thought I was doing with the Uprising. But those are my thoughts. One more thing before I close this out. I forgot to mention the Cathar's Call. The card performed way better than I thought it would. I wouldn't say the best card in the deck, but I know it doesn't seem like it's that awesome, but I mean, you can put this on just one of your little 1/1 tokens, and if your opponent wants to remove it, they're gonna have to spend a spell on your token to get rid of it. And there's some games where this card was responsible for helping me win. But anyways, that's the deck. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, I got more coming, so stay tuned. Please like, please sub, and that's it. Y'all take care.